Hey guys, today we have an exceptionally talented guest with us. His name is Mr. Chetan Sikarwar. He is currently serving as the FOSS Compliance Legal Counsel at Bosch. Chetan brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, having worked extensively in intellectual property law, corporate law, and software licensing. So, without any further ado, let's start this episode. So, Chetan, thanks a lot for joining us on this amazing episode of Let's Discuss podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Trust me, the pleasure is all mine. So, for some of our listeners who don't know anything about you, would you care to give a brief introduction of yourself?
So I'm an engineer first who turned to become a lawyer, specializing in the IP. I completed my engineering in 2012. The initial idea to go in engineering is to join Indian Army, Indian Defence Services to be precise. And luckily in 2013, I also cleared the SSB, Service Selection Board interview. But due to some medical issues, I could not join them. Then for a couple of years, I worked in some of the startup in my locality and also prepared for some government exams, as everyone does nowadays.
Absolutely.
Then in 2018, I got the opportunity to join IIT Kharagpur for my law. So there I joined in 2018, and then 3 years I pursued my law, and then since then I'm working with Bosch as open source compliance officer or free and open source compliance officer, which is also known as FOSS.
Wow, that's a great story. So what instigated that idea? What inspired you to pursue law? Because a lot of engineers, if they are not too happy with their career, they go the MBA route. Why?
During my preparation for the government services, I happened to read about the Indian polity. So from there, my interest developed in the Constitution of India. And when I start reading the Constitution, I realize, okay, I love this subject. I love to argue about this subject. So why not let's make this as a career? Fortunately or unfortunately, I get to know that the IIT Kharagpur at that point of time, so they have a college known as Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law. So they provide you a 3-year LLB course specialized in the intellectual property rights. And that course is only available for engineers and Master in Science students. So I thought, okay, fine, this is something which looked promising. I can also utilize my engineering knowledge, which I gained in last 4 years. And I can also gain some legal knowledge as well. Interest in the constitutional law, interest in the in argument and all. I think that is something which pushed me toward pursuing law rather going for the MBA or MTech.
What was your experience, if you compare your experience in IIT Kharagpur vis-a-vis in your B.Tech degree?
In B.Tech degree, I was very young. I would say I was not mature enough to have any experience. Apart from that, if I can recall my engineering days, during that time, I was like in full mode of being an army officer or a defense person. I always wore the college uniform throughout my 4 year. We have this ceremony where final year student, they sign each other's shirt. So they said, sometime do not wear your college uniform. So my experience in engineering college was not very vibrant. When I compare to my law college experience, it is very vibrant. We had a very good faculty, especially the constitutional teacher, Professor Uday Shankar, and copyright professor, contract law professor. So we used to have a lot of argument among ourselves. And then my friends with whom I completed my college, they were also very argumentative. So we often have different opinion on one particular matter. Rather, I would say that if I have some opinion, they will definitely oppose me for this. So yes, the experience was absolutely fantastic from the learning wise. Apart from that, if I talk about the culture and the experience in different sense, which generally student worries about, IIT Kharagpur is absolutely fantastic. One of the best institute, I must say. And I'm not saying because I'm the alum of the institute. When you go there, you experience the environment, climate, everything. So best decision, I would say, of my life to join the IIT Kharagpur for my law college. I mean, I don't have word to explain my experience there.
Happy to hear that. But one of the cons of IIT Kharagpur or more precisely, Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Rights,
Mhm.
is that, it kind of forces you to specialize in IP, right? What are your thoughts on this?
So, as I was mentioning, you do get an advantage that when you complete your education from a college which is well known in the industry for intellectual property rights. So, as a student, you have advantage. But there are a number of students from our college. There are a number of alum in my college who has not opted the IP route. Rather, they have gone to the general law or the criminal law as well. So on the advantage part, I would say yes. But then again, if you have interest in something else, nobody is stopping you. And there are a lot of people who are from the college and working in the different area of law as well.
Very wise words there. So, would you suggest someone who is thinking of pursuing 3-year LLB, right, to go to IIT Kharagpur versus established brands like CLU or, Campus Law Center or BH?
That depends on the interest of the person.
Right.
Like if you are passionate about litigation, I would say don't go for the Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law, because the college is situated in Kharagpur, Medinapur district, and court visits are usually not possible there. But if you want to go for a litigation, choose something which is more toward a main city where a lot of courts are there, where you can take part in the litigation or being the part of court proceeding and all. Apart from, if you have some technological background and you love technology, you are interested in knowing how they function, then I would say go for Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law, because there you can serve both things, your passion toward love as well as your love toward engineering and technology. So that totally depends on the interest of an individual, I would say.
Wow. No, great insights there. And now you brought in the topic of internships there, and that's really interesting because as a law student, because I did 5-year law college, it was really surprising to me as to why people pursuing other courses are not doing as much internships as law students. So from your profile, we saw that I think you did one mandatory internship that is mandatory in the
second year.
Right. And then you did 3 to 4 internships while you were pursuing the LLB course. So how does this change happen?
We were discussing with one of our law professor. So he gave us the insight regarding this law profession. So what he said is that the law that you read in the class is absolutely different what is practiced in the real life. So if you want to be a lawyer who is successful or who has some bit of understanding of law, class will not do the justice to you. You should go and experience the law at work. My professor's word triggered something in me, and so I decided to go for the internship. So my first internship was in Sessions Court, Agra, where I have seen the CRPC and IPC functioning in a real life. Then later on, after that internship, I realized, okay, litigation is something which is not my cup of tea. I cannot practice in the court. So then I shifted my focus toward corporate law. I did my second internship with Desai and Devanji in Delhi, which working in the corporate world, especially in insolvency and bankruptcy and arbitration matters. I did 2 internships with Desai and Devanji, 1 internship with Link Juris LLP. So most of my internship was with the corporate world. After having the idea, the competition in litigation is very cutthroat. Plus, there are a lot of things that you have to compromise with your principles and all. So I thought, okay, litigation is not something for me. I should focus my work, my interest toward corporate. And then finally, I'm working with Bosch. Not in a corporate, I would say. It's still in IP, but not in patents. I'm working with copyright and contracts.
So, no, we'll talk about your current role.
Sure.
But one of the things that I wanted to ask was that I think you did an internship as a legal researcher for Ministry of Law and Justice.
Yeah.
How did you know about this, and how did you approach?
This is something which is perk of being IIT TAG. So one of our professor, he has this project from Ministry of Law and Justice, where he's supposed to investigate about the then recent amendment in the Commercial Courts Act. That is, I think, Section 12A, where the mediation become mandatory for certain cases to be filed in the commercial court. I think it was December time, and at that time, my professor approached me that he has some project where some research is required, whether I'm interested to do that research or not. So I thought, okay, fine, it's a good opportunity to work with you. Of course, I'll do that. So that's how I came across that opportunity, and I'm lucky that I can write it in my CV.
That's nice. You got a chance to do a 4-month internship with TVS Motor Company. So how did that happen?
Internship with TVS is part of my mandatory internship, which we're supposed to do in after 2 years of completion. TVS is the regular recruit in our college, so they come every year. They basically hire 2 to 3 people for internship, and then from there they extend their PPO. So they came to the office, to the college for the internship purposes. I sat in their interview and somehow I cracked that. Because prior to that, I have zero IP internship. All of my internship were either in the general law or in the corporate law. I don't know what they saw in me, and finally offered that internship to me.
Quite I know you are acting really humble there, but I'll let it slide. That's what I wanted to. Attendance is a big issue in Rajiv Gandhi School of IP, and in a lot of law colleges in India, that's not the case, right? Where attendance is not mandatory. So students are doing internships when their semester is going on, and they're able to do 3-4 months internship every. What are your thoughts? Which situation is better, where college is really strict about attendance and you are only going to, you are able to do only 1 month internship, versus colleges are not so strict and students are able to do a longer internships?
I believe hands-on experience is better, but I will not complain from what my learning is, to be honest, because we really enjoyed our class sessions. I mean, they are very interesting. But then when you talk about practical knowledge, I would say internship do help. I mean, the thing that you can learn in 1 year of your internship or your job, you cannot learn that in 5 years of law college, to be honest, because there are a lot of tricks and techniques which are involved in order to deal with the certain issues. So yes, internships are matter, I would say, but then classes are also important. There are a lot of things that you learn in classes, but a lot of practical knowledge in the internship. So I don't know. I don't have any clear idea on this. My personal opinion was I really enjoyed my college in Rajiv Gandhi. I enjoyed the classes. Even if we do not had this strict rule for the attendance, I still would have attended all my classes because I really enjoyed the teaching of my professors. And I mean, it's not the teaching, to be honest. It's just that often in these classes, we felt like that we are arguing counsel and the professor who is sitting in front of us is the opponent.
Right.
And we are arguing with them to prove our case. And every time we lose. So that is something which was very interesting. And I believe that is, I don't know about the other law college, but that was the best experience I had in Rajiv Gandhi. And I would not have changed it, even if the rule of mandatory attendance was not there.
Thanks for sharing that story. Internships are quite important to learn the practical aspects. But then what surprises me that why other professional courses are not so hell-bent on giving internships, and why legal education is such an outlier when it comes to internship. If you see CA, right, they have this mandatory internship, but this is like, just a long period. And I know a lot of people who somehow manage to skip that. But if you look at management courses or engineering courses, all of these guys go and do a job which is very different from what they were taught in the college. But why they are not under such a pressure to do internships?
My opinion would be very controversial here. I think is when we talk about law in general, so what you read is one aspect of it, and there is an equal amount of knowledge is there when you apply it, right? And you can learn something which is practical in nature when you do the application part. Now, when I compare with engineering, right, because when I was pursuing my engineering, the only thing that I have to do is the coding part, which I had did in my final project. There is not much requirement for me to apply whatever I have learned in the practical way. right? So if I have to write a program, I will write it the same way, whether I'm in college or in working for some company or during my internship. But when it comes to the law, things is absolutely different. You encounter a client, he has absolutely different requirement than the previous client. So he has some other issue, the other one has a different issue, and number of laws are different. So you need to know where that particular law is and then how to apply that law to that particular situation. And this is something which you can only understand and learn when you have a hands-on experience. Whereas in other the only thing that you need to understand is how to handle people, to be honest. Or in engineering, I don't know, like what else is there. But in other profession, like for MBA and all, it's just that how you handle the people. And for that, you are either good or you are not. So there is nothing much to learn there. So I think that is the far more required in law, because there are a lot of practical learning is necessary. And you need to also learn some tricks and technique to apply whatever you have learned in the classes. Whereas in other profession, there is no such requirement. So whatever you have learned, you can either do that in your own class or with your...
Thanks for sharing that. And how's the placement scene at IIT Kharagpur?
In my batch, we were somewhere around 45, 46 people. Anyone who wanted the job from college were placed. They were placed a decent company or law firm. People who were like not inclined toward working in the IP. Being honest here, Law College, Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law, they do not support you if you are not interested to work in IP. But there are a lot of alum who work in that particular area. Professors give you contact, you connect with them and they'll help you out. But the college in general does not help. So anyone who wanted the job from the college, they are placed, means the 100% placement in that area. And people who wanted to go for a litigation or wanted to work in a non-IP firms, they are also adjusted with our seniors. So in that sense, I would say 100% placement was there. People may differ with the number, but then I see it in that particular fashion.
Achieving 100% placement in legal profession is very easy because at the end of the day, every student that you have is, if he or she doesn't get a job, he's going to join litigation.
Sure.
Even though that person won't be paid for the next 2 to 3 years, technically that person is placed, right? So 100% placement on record is very easy to achieve. But I wanted to understand what's the general scene at IIT Kharagpur, because I know a lot of law colleges and law students where they really they are saying like, give us any job that, we can. But the college is structured in a way and has that reputation in the market that they are not able to place everyone who is desirous of getting a job.
So I can tell you till 2021, post 21 due to COVID and all, situation changed a bit, and even I am not updated much. So till my batch, in every batch there are 5 to 10 people who decided initially that we are going for the litigation and we are going for the non-IP work. So apart from those people, if you take an average of 20 to 25 people who are sitting for the placement, most of them are placed, right? Yeah. And majority of these 20 to 25 people, they are already have an offer from the company where they have interned, right? So during my period, there are certain companies which are like regular, right? So TVS is regular. They always hire 3 or 4 people from our college. Bosch is one of the regular companies from there. Apart from that, there are a number of law firms which are regular. They often come and take 4 or 5 people on a regular basis. You genuinely want to get a job from the college, opportunities are, at the end of the day, then again, you have to crack in my personal experience, I've never seen a person who is sitting in the interview session or going through that particular phase and do not have any offer at the end. That was my experience. Post from my juniors, I get to know that the situation is a bit dire now. But then again, I'm sure college must be working very hard in order to do justice with the student.
This is the best a college can do, right? Mm-hmm. And as you said, I completely agree with your fact, the amazing work Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property work is doing when it comes to placement. But that's not a sole opinion. I'd also say this is an opinion I've heard from many people. Now coming to your current. So FOSS Compliance Legal Counsel, right?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Okay, so let me give you a brief about FOSS initially. So
Okay.
usually when you develop a software, you download certain libraries from GitHub or from other open source, from the internet, to be honest. Now, when you download those libraries are under certain licenses,
Yeah.
right? So those licenses could be an open source license, or those licenses could be a commercial one. Like, for example, Microsoft's license. You downloaded file from Microsoft, it is a commercial license. Or you downloaded a Linux kernel, which is under general public license. So open source, generally, if I have to explain exactly what open source is. So open source is a community-driven program, if you can put it that way, where engineers, they share their source code of the application that they have developed, and they have given to the people in general. And when they give it to people in general, they put certain conditions, certain restrictions in order to use that. So open source licenses are those restrictions, those limitations, and those conditions that you have to fulfill in order to use that piece of code. My job as a FOSS basically stands for Free and Open Source Software. So my job as a FOSS Compliance Legal Officer is to look into the license text and then assist the teams whether they can use the particular piece of code or not. If they can use it, how they can use it, what should be the way of interaction, and what are the obligations they have to fulfill, whether it has any negative impact on our company if we use that particular piece of code, and so on and so forth. So any assistance they require in terms of legal and some bit of technical, I mean, I will not tell them you can write this function to use it, but how they can integrate that piece of code with our own proprietary application, and any other legal assistance related to the softwares. So that is my role in Bosch.
Wow, great description there. One of my good friend got into legal hot water because they were using free and open source software, but the legal team they were just not aware of the fact, and so they didn't put in the right restriction notices and disclaimers at the right places, and this got them trouble. So this is really important, and something I feel young startups don't really take care of, right? What are your thoughts on this problem that you're trying to solve at Bosch, right? It must be happening at other startups and established companies. So what are they doing to?
I'm not exactly sure what they are doing, but if you consider it, then I see it's a very major legal issue, to be honest. So there are a number of cases which are there in US where companies are found non-compliant with the open source license and had to pay a hefty sum in order to settle the matter. So there is one organization which is known as Gandhi. So they have a family of licenses which are general public licenses, and the Linux kernel is also under one of their license. And then there is another organization which is free software firm. SFLM is I think is the correct name of them. So what they usually do is they look for the companies who are incompliant or have not fulfilled the obligation of general public license. So if I can give you a brief idea exactly what general public license says is that if you are using their code, or if you're using any code which is licensed under general public license, then in such situation, you have to release the entire application under general public license. You need to provide the source code to anyone who came across your application. And then you also need to provide the attribution to the author. People are often do not care about this much, and they do not comply with it. So usually what happens in those cases is that companies have not released the source code, which they are supposed to do because of using the GPL. And that particular law firm filed a case in the circuit courts in the United States of America, and then they have to pay a hefty sum, which is not disclosed. Of course, this is out of the court settlement. There are a number of cases, especially from 2007 to 2008 or 9, and then later on. So it is one of the major issue, and I believe the startups, they need to pay much more attention to that. Because usually what happens is that initially when your brand is not too big, people don't care much. But once you reach to a particular level, at that point of time, it is very easy for a person who has a bit of knowledge about the open source and can look into your compliance sheet, figure out any issue or any problem in your code, or take a hefty sum from you. If you're not complying with the open source license, it is a copyright infringement. So if it is a copyright infringement, it can be a criminal case or it can be a civil case where you can be prosecuted, or you are asked to pay either fine or pay damages to the person whose software you have used. So yeah, it's a major issue, and I think new startups need to pay attention toward it.
Absolutely. There's a famous phrase in IP litigation is that we don't sue until and unless the other party becomes successful. And the problem that happens is that, that if you are a young startup trying to make it, they will not get a lot out of you by suing you. The biggest risk that you are taking is this kind of thing coming in at the time of raising funds, which is when everything has happened and they're doing due diligence and they come across that you have received a notice. That time I have seen a lot of deals falling through because of this. Because people who are investing in you, they don't understand IP, right? True. They don't know whether because of this IP dispute, is this company I'm investing in is going to be worthless or is just going to be a minor issue, right? Which is quite often the case, but the investor doesn't know it. The best case scenario would be that they still invest in you, but use this as a leverage to bring down the valuation.
There is another side of as well. You can also utilize open source as a strategic matter. So you see Google, so they develop transformers. A transformer is something on which the generative AI...
Can for our public who doesn't know about transformer and how important role transformers are playing these days?
I'll explain whatever I know. So transformer is basically an architecture of neural network, where the particular neuron, how they take a decision is determined, right? So prior to that, there was RNNs. So what they do is there is a looping method. So you put an input, they do some calculation, and then they generate an output, and then output is fed to another network. Now, in this particular case, transformers, basically what they have done is they have came up with the attention mechanism through which you reach to a more appropriate classification of that particular word. I mean, if I go in detail, it becomes more technical, and even I'm not sure whether I'll be able to explain that. So transformer, you can understand as a building block for ChatGPT or any generative AI, which is like very famous right now. So
in ChatGPT, is
transformers, yes.
Right. So without Google, a lot of people don't realize it.
ChatGPT was not be possible. Yes, absolutely. Even if I'm not wrong, even the TensorFlow is something which is developed by Google and provided to public under Apache license, Apache 2.0. Look at their business mind. Now, Apache says that you can use that piece of code, but whatever patent you are generating, you cannot file an infringement case for that, right? So, for example, I develop an application using TensorFlow, and I created a product out of it, and I filed for a patent. Now, somebody else tomorrow use the same TensorFlow and develop something new, and now it is like in competition with my own app product. I cannot sue them because they are infringing my patent because I've used TensorFlow. And the moment I file the patent infringement case against them, they are under copyright infringement. So because they write whatever they have given under Apache is taken away. So you see the brilliance of their mind. Android is the perfect example. They put Android in the public domain. I think Android is under MIT or BSD. I'm not sure exactly. And now majority of the phone market is using Google dominance, and they are enjoying the fruit of their work. Open source is, of course, at one end saves you. Also, it gives you a lot of strategic advantage if you use it properly.
Now I can understand why you were saying that, open source software can be used as a strategic or competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
Right. Great insights there. Over the course of my professional career, I I meet a lot of legal professionals in law firms and in the corporate department, but I rarely see someone with this title, FOSS Compliance Legal Counsel. So my question is, what is happening? Other companies making this legal function just part of the general corporate legal department, or how many FOSS legal compliance counsels with this designation, in your opinion, exist in India?
See, giving number would not be possible for me.
Obviously.
But I know a couple of people who are in my circle and who are working more or less the same work, and they're working in decent companies, like well-known companies.
Right.
So companies are, especially the one who are a bigger name, they are very vigilant about this particular issue, and they make sure that whatever they are doing is compliant with all the general laws along with the open source as well.
But the smaller companies, they are making this legal function part of the general corporate department.
Maybe they are not concerned about it. So I can put it in this way, considering my experience with the people I'm working with, all the multinational companies, they are very vigilant about the open source as well as the IP. Whereas the Indian companies, they are not so... and Indian companies, I mean, the new startups, I mean, not the other bigger names, which are like working in a multiple domains. The startups and all, they are like, it would be harsh for me to put it. They are still in the survival mode rather than focusing on something which is being compliant with open source or IP rules.
That's not untrue, to be honest. And I completely agree with your assessment. So my next question is, how does these small companies make sure that they're not breaking the open source licenses, especially when they have a very small legal department? And a lot of times they don't even have a legal department. They have an outsourced external counsel, right? So how can a lawyer who doesn't even understand technology, right? That's what most technologies are. And there are technical people who are, using these open source libraries. How does they coordinate to make sure that smaller companies are not breaching open source licenses?
So one thing what they can do is that there are a number of applications which are available nowadays. Black Duck is one, FOSS Lens is one, Fossology is one. So what these applications do is you put your source code in them. They scan the entire source code and give you a report that these are the open source component we found, and these components are licensed under so and so thing. So what they can do, minimum, at least they should do is, they should generate that report, look into that report and see whether that report contain anything which is a strong copyleft license, or like that would be a more technical term. They just look into that, whether that list of license contain anything which put implication onto their own code.
Okay.
Apart from that, if you are using source code from internet, try to give attribution to that, means whosoever the author is, just give their copyright information. If you can find the license information, just try to provide that license information as well in your documentation or in your web page. Just mention that this is the product, this product contain, this is the software detail for the product, we are using so and so component, these are the author name, and this is the copyright. And apart from that, you can also, if you can figure out, usually if you are looking into, let's say, if I'm downloading something from GitHub is one of the major repositories.
Right.
So in GitHub, you find the license information for each and every component most of the time.
Right.
Either you can find it in the license file, or you can find it in the README file, and so on and so forth. So pass that information along with your product and just make sure that there is no strong copyleft licenses or weak copyleft licenses. Right.
Okay. So I have two follow-up questions. What do you mean by, so they have this, they have downloaded the software from GitHub, which everybody is doing.
Yes.
Right. So there's something mentioned, okay, this is GNLU 3.2. For a technical person, he doesn't understand what that person is supposed to do.
The answer would be very technical in this particular query.
Right.
So when we talk about the FOSS licenses, they can be classified into three broader categories. So one is permissive in nature, where the author of the code has given you all the necessary rights which you require in order to use that particular application. Means you can use it, you can run it, you can distribute it, you can modify it and do whatever.
Right.
The only thing that you need to do is provide attribution, means give the copyright information of the author, as well as you need to provide the license text under which you received. So MIT, BSD, your sort of an Apache. So these are the licenses which are permissive in nature because they give you a lot of permissions in order to do this. Now there is a secondary category which is known as weak copyleft licenses. Now what these licenses says is that you have all the permission to do whatever you require in order to function, but just remember one thing, that the product of this open source component and your own proprietary application will go under two separate licenses. Means your proprietary application go under the term of your choice, but this open source will always remain under open source license. In this case, again, what you're required to do is you need to provide copyright information, you need to provide license text, and in certain cases, you need to provide source code for the open source component, not whatever you have developed. Then comes the third category of license, which is strong copyleft licenses. Now, these are the licenses which says if you're using my code in order to develop your application, whatever the resultant is will go under the same license, means under which you receive the open source. So, for example, general public license, version 1, version 2, version 3, or AGPL license, version 2, version 3, they are strong copyleft licenses. So they say if you are using my code in your application, you have to release the entire application under my license, right? So whenever you encounter certain licenses, you need to firstly avoid. That is the first suggestion I would give you. If you're not able to avoid and it becomes absolutely mandatory for you, then in that case, there are certain exemptions. Exemption as in, so whenever we talk about the softwares, so there are certain things which is known as integration, like how your application is interacting with the open source component. So GPL says that if your application and this open source works in a separate program, right, there is no intimate communication between both of them. There is no intimate exchange of information between both these applications. Then in such situation, you can run and you can distribute your application and you under your term and condition, my code will go under my term and condition. So whenever you encounter a strong copyleft license, firstly, just make sure that you are not using them. Secondly, if it becomes absolutely necessary for you to use that piece of code, just try to make sure that piece of code runs in a separate way from your own application. Now, how you can achieve it? For that, you need to hire a person who is...
Right. Ghoda ghat se dosti karega to
absolutely.
I'll not let you go. This is general people who are startup entrepreneurs. They are strapped with cash. And as you said, in the survival mode, right? And majority of them are building web apps, right? They start with a website and they build a web app. Then they think about going, building apps in the Android or the Apple ecosystem, right? So they have downloaded the software. They have gotten the README license. They read it, right? Where they are supposed to put this information on their web.
Where they should put this information depend on the license itself.
Okay.
So majority of license says that you're supposed to distribute that information along with the product.
Okay.
Or in the user manual, whatever the manual you have, or in the advertisement, wherever you are doing the advertisement part. One of the most safest way to do this is that you have your own website where you have your product either listed or available for download. And there you have a page where you give the detail of the product itself. For example, I developed an application where you can ask questions. So on that particular website, I give you the description. Okay, this is the product. These are the description. These are the things that you can do. And in that particular page, you can give all this information, software information that this application is developed, which are licensed. These are the respective author for so and so. And the license for these license text for these licenses can be referred through so and so page.
Well said. I'm actually planning to do a series on this. Especially after one of my close friends got into hot water. I've been thinking on this issue. And that was one of the reasons I approached you. Because my knowledge on this topic is a little limited.
Okay.
So now this is the rapid fire round. So my first question is, what's the funniest thing you have ever heard in your legal career?
This is not something which I personally experienced, but over a YouTube, I heard an experience which Justice Chandrachud mentioned.
Right.
So he usually narrates this story that one of the senior counsel sent his junior to ask for a time. So he entered in the court and asked Chief Justice directly, "Sir, what's the time?" So Chief Justice asked, "Okay, why are you asking me? There is a clock there." So he said, "My superior asked me to come here and ask time from you." So I think that was I didn't do justice with the joke, but I think that was
you didn't.
yeah, that was the funniest thing I ever heard.
If there was a title called Joke Butcher, you would definitely.
Absolutely. In personal life, I'm more funnier than this. My friend can vouch for this.
Hard to believe, but I'll accept it. One of the funniest thing I have ever heard came from an alum from your college.
Okay.
Right. So I was interning with him in Delhi and he shared an experience. So he had a classmate who was a doctor, right? Because a lot of people were like, you just don't need B.Tech. If you have a technical degree, even if you're an MBBS, you can pursue law from IIT Kharagpur.
Yes.
So he said कि यार ये तो डॉक्टर है, ये प्रैक्टिस करने जाएगा तो जज को कह देगा सर तबीयत खराब है दवाई भी खा लो.
There are a couple of things which are like very funny, but then again, they are not specific related to law.
It doesn't matter. Please share, please.
Those are the conversation with the professor specifically and with the confined of privacy.
Absolutely. No. We'll talk about that off the record. And my next question is, if you could be any superhero, which one you would be and what would be your legal superpower?
So my legal superpower would be knowing each and every statute by heart, whether a procedural or substantive. If you ask me to be a superhero, I would say Captain America.
Yeah,
I really admire the discipline that man has, the moral compass he has. So yeah. So Captain America.
You essentially wants to be the guy from Suits, right?
Harvey Specter, you mean to say?
No. Harvey Specter hires another guy.
Mike Spence.
Not a lawyer.
Yes.
Mike Spence. So I miss like you really wanted to be in the army. I think army lost a great candidate by not selecting.
No, I don't agree with this. Army select the best. So this is one of the saying in the SSB area,
right?
Where they say that we select the sharpest mind and the fittest body. So if I'm not there, that means I am not either fit or the sharpest.
Did you try a career option? Because this was suggested to me by my dad that army hires a lot of lawyers as well.
Right? JAG entries. Yes.
Right.
So the issue with my case is even if I go for a JAG entry, I have to go through the SSB process. Okay. SSB process is more or less similar. If you want to be a commissioned officer in Indian Army, you have to follow a process or either whether the Coast Guard or Air Force or Navy. So there is a streamlined process. Whenever the medical comes, the issue that I have is something which is problematic. I cannot get through that door with that particular condition. I have congenital cataract in both of my. What army or the defense in general, the rule they have is anything which is congenital in nature and can have or severe in nature, to be honest, they will not take you. Right. So with me, the issue is I have this cloud formation on both of my eyes, right at the center of the sight. There was another person who was suffering with more or less the same issue, but then the cloud formation in his eyes was on a different plane than right at that center. He got through. The problem was very severe, and that's why I could not join.
How did that make you feel when you first came to know about this?
To be honest, if I put it in a more poetic manner, we usually heard a dialogue in Hindi movies के पहला प्यार जब छूटता है तो कैसा लगता है. So for me, it was that same experience. I cannot explain you how much it meant to me to join, to go to the army. I think it was first year of my engineering when I decided to join armed force. And that was something which I genuinely wanted from my life. I never loved anything more than being in that uniform. And for 4 or 5 years consecutively, I consider myself as a defense personnel. I acted in the same manner. Even if I imagine my future right after the college, I see myself in the uniform. And then all of a sudden, when I came to know that that dream cannot be fulfilled, and because of something in which I have no control of,
Yeah.
So it was like a life ending situation. My personality changed from there itself. Initially, I was very more serious and very calm person. From that, I turned to this, a very jovial person. I mean, always make jokes, do not take things very seriously, and so on and so forth. So I think that was a life-changing experience for me. I still feel very bad whenever I think about it. So yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that.
it's okay.
Life is quite cruel. For this podcast, uh, what advice would you give to someone who experiences an heartbreak just like you?
Here, I would like to share a story that I learned in my last SSB. So, with me, there was a person. So, he participated in a number of recruitment drives, right? So, recruitment army usually conduct recruitment drives in every city where you go run for some kilometers and do some physical activities, and then they recruit as a sepoy. At least 4 or 5 he must have been appeared into. In all those drives, he was rejected due to certain issues, some problems. I mean, in certain case, he was not physically fit. In some case, he has some medical issue, and so on and so forth. In that particular SSB where I met him, he wrote the CDS exam for the first time, appeared in the SSB for the first time in Allahabad. He cleared the medical in first time, and now he became the lieutenant Indian Army, right?
Yeah.
So now consider this: if he got succeeded in one of the recruitment drives, he would only remain as a Sipahi in Indian Army. He never become the officer of Indian Army, gazetted post, right?
Yeah.
So he told me this thing when my medical was happening, and I was very sad. So he told me something, and he narrated this story to me and said, "See, if I look back, I can clearly tell you that whatever happens for the good."
Yeah.
So that is something which I learned from it. Although I feel bad, but I strongly believe that whatever happened is happened for good. So
Yeah.
this is my message to anyone who has gone through such a hardship. Even if you look at back and you see yourself today, you will see there was a situation when you thought everything is gone. Now still you are surviving, and it will be the same case.
Wise words there, Chetan. Thanks a lot for coming on the podcast and sharing your story, sharing your legal knowledge. It was really entertaining and knowledgeable. And one word I rarely use in my podcast, it was inspiring.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Trust me, you are meant for better things. And you might not realize this right now, but later on, right?
Maybe. Sure.
As we wrap up this insightful episode of Let's Discuss Cafe, we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to Chetan. Remember to follow him on LinkedIn to stay updated on his latest insights and adventures. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it within your network and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us to bring more incredible guests and content to you. Thank you for tuning in to Let's Discuss Cafe. Until the next time, stay caffeinated, stay curious.